I mean, let's be honest. If we all could live forever, would I stay with my husband after 120 years? Would I still find the same things interesting staying with him? Would I still want to, would everything still excite me the same way, or would it become dull and repetitive?
No. Everyone's like, oh, eternal life would be terrible. Well, you know what? When somebody gets there, they can report back. And my bet is they're going to say it was pretty awesome. We're going to get future cars. We're going to get computer games. I will be fine living forever.
You're on a path in the woods. At the end of that path is a YouTube channel, Unresolved Textual Tension. Today we are doing something different. We are reviewing Slay the Princess, a video game.
And with us are the two co-hosts. That was Val. As you guys know, she will lie, she will cheat, and she will try to confuse you, as the game says. And that is Katie. So normally we do books on this podcast. And if you're watching this for the first time, we normally do books on this podcast. But today we wanted to do Slay the Princess, which is a very narratively heavy game, a focused game. It has like shifting paths based off of what choices you make. It's one of those, and there's no real like gameplay systems per se in it. And I had originally found this game through having watched a playthrough of it, and then I played it with Katie when I came up to visit her, and she was besotted with it just as I was. And then we told Val about it. And Val, how would you describe your reaction to this game?
Well, I don't react normally to most things. Once I start liking something, I just tunnel vision all the way in. But I played this nonstop for like a week. All of the little voices of the narrator started like seeping into my brain. I started like dreaming about it. It was out of control. I've played it so many times. I've played all the endings. I'm unwell.
When Will did show it to me, I was like, I really enjoyed he called it narratively heavy, and there's so many things that you are allowed to choose as a dialogue option at so many instances that it becomes somewhat overwhelming, but at the same time it is also incredibly satisfying. It's because then it's actually interesting. It's because the answers and such and the different responses are all like pretty on point. There are some places where you're like, yeah, I'd actually would like to say that right now. I would like to ask that question and have some insight. Now, whether or not you get that insight's another but it was fun, and I did not respond that heavily to it. I did not play it day in and day out for a week. However, I did replay it once Will left, which is testament to the attention it grabbed from me.
And I think what Katie said is true. This is one of those games where like the designers very much know what you might be thinking and give you options. You're never frustrated with not being able to do a thing and the game not giving you an option to do it. Right from the outset, you have the premise, though, in the title, Slay the Princess. The game literally opens, and it's kind of a hand-drawn visual style with a narrator telling you you're on a path in the woods, and on that path is a cabin, and inside the cabin is a princess. You're here to slay her. And it's such a brilliant little premise to start with, but it expands in a way that's really great because immediately you're hooked. You're like, okay, why are we on this path? Why are we slaying a princess? That doesn't seem like a good idea. And so just to tell people the name of the game, they get a little bit like excited for it. And I think that, speaks to some of the, and again, well, okay. And to go a little bit forward, we are going to be talking about spoilers with the game, but we'll probably leave those towards later. There's a middle portion of the game that kind of you don't need to know the ending for, and then we'll probably discuss the game, the ending. So if you're worried about spoilers, don't worry about that. We'll get to that later in the video. You can pretty much just watch the first part for now.
It is a good game, I would argue, to just go in completely blind on, though. Like, if you're interested at all, like, yes. Maybe just watch this later. Go play it a little bit.
Yeah, highly recommend. There's a new edition called the Pristine Cut, and it is, I played a choice that I didn't get a chance to play since Will and Val and I have started talking about this game, which is going off the, we'll discuss it at one point, but you go off the beaten path and there was a fresher like scene. It wasn't the same scene as there was last time, and also all of the drawings became a lot nicer. I realized I really appreciate that, and there was like more love put into the motion. It's because it's not animated or anything. It's like I think Will said, it's hand drawn, and you get like pieces by pieces as it comes. But the newer version kind of has everything moving in a movie style a little bit nicer. So if you like that kind of style, if you like asking a lot of questions, and you like a good mystery and existential dread, now's the time to stop and go play it.
So we had actually already recorded this episode, but then one of us, and we don't know who, for the first time in 3 years on the podcast, accidentally deleted it.
Just because you say it's the first time in 3 years doesn't make it any less like.
Again, I don't know. We don't know which of it is, so I wouldn't insult any. I wouldn't put that out there because we don't know who it is. And I'm actually quite glad that whoever that was did do that, because the first time we talked about this, things were a little bit confused. Because it is a confusing game. There's a lot of options, and describing it is kind of difficult. And so this time we kind of drew up what our thoughts had been from last time, and we decided to also make this a little bit more structured. So hopefully this will be a little bit more coherent than it was last time, which again was a lot of us like kind of trying to find our footing and talking through ideas. And this time I also did a little bit of research, which is something I don't usually do for you guys on this podcast.
And that means this time I got my little dagger necklace.
Yes. Can we get some princess emojis in the comments for Val? She dressed up. I didn't want to wear a Raven suit, so I didn't dress up. It would be funny if one of us just was the cabin, like on our head. That was like we were the character we were was the cabin.
The hero and the cabin.
Yeah, those are the only two other characters it can do. So like I said, the game starts just with you in the woods, and it's hand drawn, and every line is like a little shivery, and you hear the first tones of the music. And the music in this game is so atmospheric, and I get chills every time I listen to it. If you've played this game, you know which song I'm talking about. It's great. And the narrator has like a very rich voice. He's great throughout this work. We'll talk in a second about how I don't love how he's used in certain cases, but we'll just leave that for now. And like he says, you're on a path in the woods. You're going to go kill this princess. And you can start asking him questions back from a list of dialogue choices. And it's funny because almost immediately you get the sense that the game is very creepy, but it's also like a little funny. Like the things you can ask him, he has kind of snappy British retorts to. And so like if you ask him like, well, why am I going to go kill her? He's like, you just are. Like, stop asking about this. Where else would you be going? There's a lot of people at stake here. And that's kind of his thing, is you need to kill the princess because otherwise the world will end.
And on my first, not my initial playthrough, on the one that I did right before recording now, this time I had like a plot line in my head. I mean, I did that, I guess, last time, but this one I had a clear image of what I wanted from each interaction. And so I started off my little internal, storyline that I was building around his, like, adventure, which is kind of nice that you can do again. But I made him more questioning, and like I literally exhausted all of the questions, of which there are many, which is kind of a detriment, but it's fine. Through all of the exposition items that ask, okay, but like, what is the philosophy behind why we're doing this, bud? Like, how can she possibly end? Because you can ask questions. Okay, well, how can this princess, like, end the world? How is that literally physically possible? Who put her down there? Oh, you won't answer that? Then why does it have to be me, of all people, that has to go? So you can ask all those questions, and you do get some clever, like, witty little, like, repertoire back and forth.
And, like, the thing is, you don't have to ask all those questions. They are there. It's very humorous sometimes, and you can get some, it's not really exposition because the narrator barely tells you anything, but you don't have to ask them. You can ask them. You can head straight to the cabin, and on your first playthrough, you might not really know what's going on, and there are like a few just very, very specific decisions that you make throughout it that are clear. Like, do you go to the cabin? Do you walk away? Once you get to the cabin, do you pick up the blade? Do you not pick up the blade? And name of the game, do you slay the princess? Do you not slay the princess? But as you continue through the game, you realize that there are a ton of tiny little decisions that you're making along the way that you might not have really picked up on before. And there are certain dialogue options that make changes on the environment that you were completely unaware of at the beginning. So the game, it really sort of nests you in it comfortably at first, like, oh, I'm here to slay a princess. And then as it goes on, you know, it introduces the gameplay really well, I think, and the narrator helps with that. I like the narrator. I know you guys are like, he talks so much, but you don't have to talk to him. Just skip it.
Actually, I really do like the narrator. I'll talk in a second about my more thing with him. And so, yeah, kind of talking too about what I had said earlier is that, and kind of what building off what they has said, is that the game very much knows what you expect to be able to do as the player and will cater to that. So, for example, you can go to the cabin, but also there's an option to not go to the cabin, and you head off in the opposite direction. And we'll talk about where that leads later, but it's a thing the designers kept in mind as a possibility. And so at no point was I ever really frustrated with my options, which can happen in some less well-made, RPGs of earlier ages. And that I think is just because, this game came out originally and then it came out with the pristine cut, which has like more endings and more options and stuff. And I had played both, but when I played the original one, even back then, I was really impressed by how many options that were available. So I would normally have thought this is something they found maybe through playtesting, but like I think they just really thought it out well from the beginning. So you go to the cabin, and before you go to the cabin, the narrator says like, don't worry, or beware, she'll lie, she'll cheat, and she'll something. And that's what I was referring to earlier. It was very witty. There's also another voice element that we'll talk about a little bit later because it's not really relevant quite yet. But you go into the cabin and there is just a pristine blade. And this is really your first like big decision that you can make is, do you pick up this knife to go into the basement where the princess is, or do you leave it on the table? And I think this is something where a lot of times when I'm playing these kinds of games, I kind of try to role play a little bit of who I am and who I'm not. So like, I'm like, so the first time I played this, I was like, oh, I'm taking the knife because I just want to keep all my options open. I'm not going to kill her, but I want to know. No, what'd you do, Katie?
This time round, I went down and I was like, okay, so I'm going to pretend like I'm a blank slate in this one. Like I have no ill intentions and that I'm just coming here to talk and figure some stuff out about the world. Because that's why I was so inquisitive at the beginning, because the character at this point is very inquisitive and curious and not suffering psychologically yet. And so I did not grab the blade. I went down seeking peace.
No, you got to keep your options open. What about you, Val? Which did you choose? Do you remember?
The first time I played, I think I went down without the knife. No, I went down with the knife, and then I ended up changing my mind, I think, and not using it against her.
Right. So what happens is you go down, and depending on, and you don't realize this the first time you're playing, this is something that like, you'll understand through repeated playthroughs, is that this really changes which voice you get from the princess. So if you don't take the knife, it's a very kind voice of a princess. Hello? In like, hello,
is anyone there?
Are you my rescuer?
Yes, like that, more like hers. Yeah.
And then if you do take the knife, she is ready for you. She just sounds mean and like, you're coming here to murder me.
More like Megara from, I think is what I said.
Hercules. From Hades.
She's got that sassy New York, like, oh, hey there, Buster. What you doing here?
But there's like a real kind of threat underneath it.
It's like a threatening skepticism about it, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I like about it is if you get that voice, you start talking to her, and because up to this point you're like, I'm not going to kill a princess. That's bad, right? Are we the baddies? And you talk to her, and she's like she's not pleading her case at all to you. If you have taken the knife, she's like, kill me, see what happens. I'm mad in here. If I get out, I'm going to make people pay. And you're like, well, shit, should I, like, am I the baddie or am I the goodie then? What's going on here?
Her eyes are creepier in that one. She like has these sort of dead like eyes. She just like sort of stares at you and you're like, whoa, okay, maybe I should kill her. Maybe she is scary. Whereas if you don't take the knife, she's just kind of like,
If you go down seeking only understanding, you go down there and she's kind of like a clueless bimbo kind of vibe. Because she's just kind of like, I don't know what to do.
Not
like,
quite
do you
until
not have
chapter
a knife?
too, but yeah.
Yeah,
She's got a little bit of that in her
a little,
voice.
You're right, a little bit.
A little like, oh, I'm just stuck
maybe
here.
you can help me.
At this part, I was like, okay, well, I'll go look for a key, herp-de-der, which is a really dumb move. It's because it's not like, it's just a dead end. But you go up and somebody closes, who? We don't know. But somebody closes the door, and so you're locked down there with her. And so at that point, that's where I was with her in the conversation.
If you take that option where like you're trying to go get a key or something, you get locked down there, you go over to her and you go, do you have any ideas of how you can get out? She goes, yeah. And then she goes and bites off her arm. Her fucking arm.
Like a rabid raccoon.
First real horror moment.
Exactly. It is such a moment of what the fuckery are we doing? Again, it plays with your expectations really well because you're just not expecting that. And so like it's a great moment. It lands harder in this one than in where you took the knife, where she's already a little bit like bitchy.
And we should say that there's two voices in your head in chapter 1. There's the narrator and then there's the voice of the hero. And the voice of the hero is sort of the voice of you a little bit, like it's just sort of like, I don't know about this. But then, she bites her arm and the hero's like, what?
Yeah, it's really actually fun. It's because it says the narrator and him go back and forth a little bit. And he's just like, she just did that without any blinking, any emotional reaction. She's just standing there with her arm chewed off. And the narrator's, imagine what she could do to the rest of the world.
It's worth pointing out the narrator is talking to you this whole time, trying to trick you into killing her and just being like, whichever ending or whichever taking the knife or not taking the knife, he's just like, why are you talking to her? Just kill her. Get this over with. You're ruining things. And it's very funny because the narrator very much to me has the presence of somebody who doesn't really know how to interact with people, trying to boss you around through ways that are like a little bit transparent. I get the sense sometimes that he just is like, no, just do the thing because I said to do the thing. And also in both of these endings, right? So we already have both the knife and the not knife. And in both of these, you can choose to not kill her once you freed her or kill her when you freed her in both. And both will then lead to different endings.
You can pretty much kill her or not kill her at like any point almost. Like there's different places where you can kill her still.
We'll just talk about the one where I think I had the knife and I decided not to kill her. And then the narrator takes over your body and makes you kill her.
Same thing happens in the run where you just don't have a knife. Or I don't remember exactly. I think the knife falls down the stairs or something. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody throws down the knife or something. And so the narrator takes over my body in this run as well. And you can resist, but it's a fun little text. I love it when games do this, especially in like, Japanese horror games and stuff. I feel like I see it a lot, but it's like where like something possessing you is trying to force you to do something. Another one that was fun was Detroit Become Human. There's a level
that game. Sorry.
Oh,
you don't think cyborgs and black people are the same?
Okay, look, I loved that game because of the world and because of the choice stuff, and I love the quick response. So I really liked that.
I never played it. That's just the one meme I've heard about it.
I digress. The point being, though, is there's this one part, where you're trying to go against your circuitry, and you have, like in this game, a list of options, and they're all the same option. Now, in Detroit Become Human, it's a different thing, but in this game, there's one that's like, resist. And so I continue to try to resist, but whether you resist or not doesn't matter. In the end, the narrator does attempt to murder her. And if you've been nice to her, she's like, oh, I see you're suffering. Let me just take that from you, and I'm sorry. And just continuously stabs you to death like an idiot, and she acts like an idiot too. She's just like, I don't know how to kill someone.
And she like clearly does not know how to use a knife. Whereas if you do the same thing and you had brought the knife down initially and you're still trying to rescue her, she will just cold kill you one stab through the chest and you're out.
And you may be thinking, wow, that's a short game. And then you wake up to the title card again, and the narrator says the same thing.
Everything goes dark and you die. You're on a path in the woods.
And before we reveal more about that, we have to tell you about a path in the woods that you can take. One where you're selfish and bad for society, and another where you support us on Patreon. Katie, you are choice A, and Val, you are choice B. Person who's listening to this, pick which of the two you want to describe our Patreon tiers. Just
Oh my
kidding. Go ahead and do it,
Oh,
Katie.
Mother of God.
I should do
wait.
the YouTube thing where you skip to this a time point if you chose this person, or this person if you did that one. But
That would
I'm
actually
too
be
lazy.
really cute. I'm not gonna lie. No, wait, I can do this. It's because I actually saved it on here, so that way I can read it. Hold on a second. All right. So, if you've clicked on me, you've made a horrible choice because every time William tries to get me to do this, I can never say it correctly. But we have got several membership options. You don't have to necessarily go all the way up to our $15 a month Parasocial Darling tier, where you get access to Critique Live streams and where Will and I kind of like break down the pros on a more detailed level, where we look at how sentence structure and how all these other things come together and culminate into good writing. But that's the highest one. If you don't have $15 a month, you can do $10 a month for the book club membership, where you get to be part of the book club that we have. You'll be able to decide on a nomination poll what book we read each month, and you get to join us for our
You're just reading it, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Okay, fine. I'll be more succinct. I'm so sorry. You can be part of a book club membership, or you can just be our official patron. How do you like that? Where you just get ad-free early access and a whole bunch of other exclusive cool Discord
You
things.
get access to the Discord, which is where we found Val. Val, tell everyone how cool and sexy the Discord is.
Yeah, you can hang out with cool, fun, sexy people like me.
You start back, and the narrator is like saying the same spiel, and you say to him like, wait, you already said this. We were already here. What happened? And he goes, no, you weren't. Stop being weird.
This is the first time we've been here.
That's like the second big oh shit moment of this game, is going like, wait, we're gonna play through that again, and he doesn't know. Like it's not just a simple replay. And so like and the other thing to bear in mind is that now things are a little different.
Everything outside the cabin looks the same at this point. The path up to the cabin looks the same.
One thing is that as Val had mentioned, you before had one voice in your head. You had the narrator in your head, and you had someone called the voice of the hero. And this is my big problem with the narrator voice. The narrator is a fantastically great voice actor, but the voices in your head and the narrator are using the same voice actor, and that gets confusing a little bit.
I love it. I love it. I don't care. You're wrong.
Originally, you just had the voice of the hero, who was very straightforward, and depending on what choice you made in the first run through, you will get a different voice. So you'll get like the voice of the skeptic, or the voice of the contrarian, or the voice of the defeated. And the defeated's like basically ER, like, I don't even think we should do this. I don't think it's defeated. It's like humbled or something like that. And they will have conversations with each other while you're just like doing your actions and stuff. And they'll give you like different, I don't think they give you different options per se, but they'll want you to do different things. And so that's the other big way you know that, oh, this is different now.
It's very funny how they interact with the narrator too. Just like the smitten, like as soon as the narrator is like, "You're here to kill her," voice of the smitten is like, "Not on my watch, villain."
Yes.
It's just like,
Yeah.
Very like big chin hero vibes
Yes.
with that voice. And the writing is really magnificent for it as well. The personalities are very, very different. The tones shifting are very, it's different for each of the pieces that the voice actor gives for each of the characters. At this point, I had gotten the voice of the smitten because I chose not to go like whole hog and bring a knife downstairs to, a defenseless princess. So I instead this time was inquisitive with it, and I was like, well, you can even say at this point, right? You can say, hey, we've done the song and dance before. This is really strange. Do you not remember this? And then, of course, the narrator says, no, that didn't happen. And then you can even say, okay, on the presumption that it did happen, what would you say to that? And then he answers that question, and that's pretty fun. And I think at this point for me, what I did, I in my little like brain plot of this story, I think, you know what? No, I don't want to kill. I don't want to kill anybody. I'm going to go off like nowhere. And so I ended up walking away in the opposite direction.
Right. And that's one of the endings we'll get to. That's kind of a mind
I'll wait
fuck.
on that.
Yeah. And so, but mostly you're like, okay, I guess I'll go back to the cabin. And it's funny because one of the things Katie said is like, if you do ask him like, hey, but if it had happened, he's like, well, then you should have killed her. Like, that's the problem. Whatever you did was not a good idea, and you should have killed her. It's such a funny answer. So basically, you go back to the cabin, but the inside of the cabin is now different. It looks different depending on what choices you made. And so this is one of those things where the choices are kind of branching outwards, right? So you can get like 8 different choices depending on what, 8 different results depending on what choices you made. And I think, so the one I'm going to describe is the one called the Spectre, because that's the one I think I first saw, which is you killed her. It's not the one that you get if you tried not to kill her. I think it's the one you get if you did kill her. And you go underground, but it's like now it's very haunted, and she's a ghost, and she like yells at you a bunch and has like a skull face and is like mad and really actually quite scary.
She's kind of like scary in kind of a flirty way almost. She's like, "Hi, killer," but like absolutely terrifying at the same time a little bit.
That's a lot of the princess is kind of flirty, but also absolutely terrifying. That's a lot of her forms. And I forget how this one ends, to be honest.
Well, there's a bunch of ways it can end.
Yeah,
Right.
I ended up getting, so you go through the song and dance of the Spectre. My choice on this one was to, what was it? Oh, I was going to leave her there forever is what I was going to do. I was like, you know what? I killed you. I'm done. I can just walk away, I think.
Peace.
That was my thinking, yeah. And she's really, really angry with me. And if I recall correctly, I think she rips out your heart.
That may be correct. Let me see. Looking at it, the Spectre can go into either the Evanescent or the Wraith.
Yeah, the Wraith is what I got.
Or if you're playing the pristine cut, the princess and the dragon.
So basically, that ends, and then sometimes the game will go on to have a third act, depending on what choices you made up until that point. But for right now, let's just say it ends with Act 2. But what happens is that you see a mirror, and you walk towards the mirror, depending on whether you died or if you killed
Did
her
you
or
say a
whatever.
mirror? It's a mirror.
Yeah,
a
he
mirror?
did say it. I wasn't gonna. I saw your face making the face, and I was like, "Oh, she's gonna comment on it." I wish I'd done it first.
The mirror, that's how the British pronounce it, actually, you godless heathens.
It's pronounced mirror.
Basically, you go into the mirror, and there you see what's called the Shifting Mound, which is like a weird Shiva-looking goddess thing with like many arms and limbs, and she has a very chill, godly voice. And at this point, you're introduced to the idea that this is a god, and she's been split into many. And each time you play through one of these rounds, you're uncovering a different part of her that you're bringing back to her. And that's kind of the conceit of the game. And so the structure of the game going forward will be, you'll go through 1 to 2 chapters, like we said, like kill her, Spectre, and then you can get other ones sometimes for a third one. And then you meet the Shifting Mound, and it resets so that your next time you can go through it again. Which I think is just a super clever conceit, because it keeps
It's a nice balance.
the branching narrative. Yeah, it keeps the branching narrative from becoming too confusing, but at the same time, you get to go through it a lot of times and feel like you're making choices.
You understand at this point in the game, as soon as you finish your time with the Shifting Mound, this is the gameplay cycle. It's going to continue looping this way. And it's great because in a specific run, you can't get the same princess more than one time, and it will like bar you from making those dialogue choices to get the same one. So you always bring her different princesses. And it's such a good, like I said, gameplay loop that keeps it contained, but also like fresh at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It also fits the existential tone. And when I say existential, I mean the dread, the what is beyond what life is. It's because you're stuck in this
Construct.
Yeah, thank you. You're stuck in this construct where you have these iconic things that you must interact with: the blade, the cabin, the princess, you, which at one point you're revealed, and whatever strange creature you are. And it's weird. And I don't think it would work if you didn't have something equally strange to have the plot line follow along in that circular like structure of like time is meaningless. So to have it work like that not only makes it really interesting and well balanced and feel like it knows what it wants to be. It doesn't feel mismatched, like it's just a strange concept, but then like the plot line itself or whatever, however the gameplay is, just kind of like meanders off or whatever. It feels like it's a whole package deal that just has a bow on top. And I guess self-actualized is what I want to say. So it feels like a self-actualized game. And so that when you get to this space that is beyond the cabin and this forest and all these normal things that you've so far gone through, well, normal. You get to just like an expanse of nothingness. And like Will said, it's like the goddess thing, the creature, is just an amalgamation of a whole bunch of hands. And it usually is using whatever princess.
Amalgamation.
What did I say? Amalgamation.
This is going to be an episode of us trying to one up each other by whoever mispronounces
It's fine.
the things.
She like puppeteers the princess that you brought her and like uses her to like move her arms and stuff like that, which in and of itself is like very off-putting. I love it. And she also almost always looks like a Christ figure, in my opinion, except for some of the ones where you only get a profile of her speaking and you don't get the whole body. But a lot of the bodies are almost being cradled like a Christ figure, which I find is fascinating because it's also a rebirth thing. So I really liked that imagery as well. It didn't really quite stick with me until this time.
I think that's true. Again, to me, it was more of like a Shiva kind of thing, but you're right. There's that kind of Mary holding Jesus thing going on. And this is one of the places that I think it's interesting to talk about that this studio, I only watched one interview with them because, to be honest, I don't want to think too much about the people writing this. I prefer to think of this as something that just exists.
Yeah.
It feels too personal to know that like two nerds wrote it. And like, but what they said is that they had made this kind of a break as a break for their main game that they're working on. And that so a lot of it was constrained by the fact that like we don't have a lot of money, so the art style is very sketchy because they're not going to do really complicated art for it. They need like only 3 characters, so they could just use the same voice actors, not a lot of different places, no real mechanics involved. And so a lot of that idea of like you start with a very simple premise and then they build the story outside of it. So this story is quite a bit about existentialist themes of choice and death and rebirth and cycles going on. And all of that comes from the very simple limitations that they started with. And I think that's really cool in a lot of ways, that this is probably going to have a bigger impact than the actual main thing they were working on. This side story where they could engage with that. And I think that's just kind of like a very good lesson to learn, that sometimes your limitations can be your strengths.
That's why I oftentimes will tell people that are trying to write and they're like, I'm overwhelmed, like I don't know what to do with my story and everything. And I'm like, okay, well then forget the story for 5 seconds. Go, like, if you want to engage with others, go join a short story contest, or just go look up a prompt for a short story and just use one of the pre-generated ones that are just like, it's you and your dog. You go out one day and you do this thing and you find what, or something like that. I mean, that's obviously a really boring prompt, but the point is you work with only the short story prompt that you like grab offline. So that way you don't have to. When you have too much open space to work, sometimes that doesn't, that's too much freedom. You need some constraints so that way you can just work with the simple, small steps that you need to complete that small task. And from there, like, you can build something that's actually quite awesome because you're so focused on doing that. You're not spreading your focus across the other things, you know?
And like the gameplay loops are like on like a surface level, very simple, but like, they go to crazy places, and because it's so constrained, they're able to follow those rabbit holes down really interesting, like sort of metaphysical, like sort of philosophical, like things. And they're like, okay, here's this, let's do it again. I'm like, oh boy, I just have to process all of that just happened and keep going. It's great. It's just a really powerful, like, tool for storytelling that they have built here.
It's true, and especially like I talked about before, there was the original edition the game came out with, and then there's the pristine cut, which added a lot of content. And we're kind of going to break up our discussion based off of which because what we're going to do at this point is we're going to just discuss some of the playthroughs, or the runs, I suppose, that we liked and what we think they mean thematically. But we're going to start with the ones that were in the original one, because, or feel like they would have been in the original one, because a lot of the pristine cut ones do some really cool things with the concept. Like, they really examine it, but at certain times you kind of need to have already set up the status quo before. Shh, don't tell people that I reuse my content, Katie. I came up with this in the moment. I'm brilliant. They kind of twist the concept to they subvert it, but you need to know what the verted was before you can sub it. And so, like, we're going to go through, I think, a couple of the simpler ones first, and then we'll go into those. But just to speak to what Val said in terms of, some of those go to crazy places that really like scare, like that really kind of shock you as a viewer. And again, I think that speaks to the developers having a very keen eye and a very good understanding of where the player is at any given moment mentally. So my favorite one, and I'm not quite sure what it's called. I think it's called The Prisoner, or it's not my favorite one, but one of my favorites is one that I had gotten where you go to kill the princess, but you can't for some reason, and you end up chained next to her. And the two of you languish forever in the cabin.
That's the first one I ever got.
Really?
Yeah.
It's hard. Oh, I should say, one of the options you get back during the first playthrough is if you successfully kill the princess, the narrator goes, okay, good, you did your job, and now you get your reward. And you're like, okay, what's the reward? And the reward is just staying there forever in nothing moving ever, nothing changing. You're stuck in this cabin.
It's very funny because if you actually do just stay in the cabin forever, you get like a shitty little like MS Paint drawing, like, yeah, you did it with the balloons, and then you get the credits.
Really?
Yeah.
The developers are so on like they know what to expect. And so that right there kind of touches on the whole existentialist horror of this game, which I probably should have described at the beginning, but I didn't want to front load us too much, which is that this game really is quite about existentialism. And that's one of the reasons I find it so compelling, because I myself have such a storied history with existentialist topics in my own life in terms of thinking about them and getting a little too connected into
we're
like
all mentally
entropy
ill here.
Yeah, okay. Val. So in The Prisoner, where you are just with her while she withers away into a skeleton and the stones crack and fall apart, and it's a really great illustration of the passing of time and the horror of time passing and just what that weight is. And then like at the very end, her like skull talks to you and goes, oh, you're still here with me, I didn't expect that. And then that run ends.
Can I just like, because this is again the very first one, the first time I played the game I got this, and like I took the knife, so the princess was like sort of like pissy with me for taking the knife, but I didn't kill her, and that's how I got that the prisoner. And I just like I approached. You walk down the stairs and she's just like chained up like everywhere, and there's one chain off to the side, and afterwards like I noticed there's always a broken chain off to the side even if you're not in that route. But like I wonder if it was for us like at some point, like just to like I wonder if we were both chained up here at one point. It's just like just a little.
So for a while I actually had a completely different, when I did get that, I had a completely different headcanon. That is the phrase I've been looking for this whole gosh darn time.
Headcanon.
Yes. Anyway, I was like, wait a second, is the narrator like this is not what is happening, ladies and gentlemen. But I was like, wait, are we two computer constructs? Like, I don't know why it came back to computer. But I was just like, well, it's because, you know what? I do know why. It's because the cabin is a bizarre concept to have a print. I brought this up before with them, with both Will and Val. But just like the cabin is a strange place. I don't equate cabin with Princess, and Val had said before, if I remember correctly, something like that, like a cabin's kind of modern. It's because like a modern day person would think, oh, cabin, or not modern, but like
there are archetypes that we understand. We understand the archetype of the cabin in the woods. We understand the archetype of the princess. It's not a specifically medieval world at all. It's just a place of archetypes. Like, because we are a crow creature. We know this very early on. We're a crow creature, and that's a archetype of its own. We could analyze like. But yeah, it's not medieval. It's archetypical.
Yeah, and so I thought like it felt strange and unbalanced to me at first. And so I thought, oh, like are we in like some type of like not maybe necessarily computer construct, but in a way we kind of are in a way in the concept.
I mean, it is quite literally a video game.
I thought that you were also supposed to be part of there. And that there was going to be some great reveal between the two, you both being locked up in there. And there isn't quite, but it does come into play in several different playthroughs that if you get stuck there, such as like, is this the one where you get stuck there beside her?
Yeah, and the thing that I actually wanted to say was, I thought it was interesting. The princess doesn't even seem to have that, she doesn't care about you in this one that much. She's just like, whatever, man, like, I'm locked up here.
Yeah.
But as soon as you approach the chain off to the wall, she doesn't do anything. The narrator obviously doesn't want you to get locked up, and he's sort of guiding all of this. The chain just sort of just binds you. Like, it does it automatically. And that's like one of the few times the environment is actively hostile to you in this game. Like, because usually we're the one in control, or, you know, the princess is exerting control over us, but she didn't do that.
Arguable though, my very, very, very first playthrough with William, I think I wound up staying in the cabin forever. It's where you do kill the princess, or you slay the princess, excuse me, not kill, wrong verb. But you end up in the cabin like for eternity. And I felt like the environment there towards you was also really aggressive in that way. So,
but in a way that the narrator intended, not like the narrator obviously didn't want us to get chained to the wall with a princess where we can't kill her.
Yeah, that's fair. But no, I think you bring up a good point, though, is what I'm saying, though, is that the environment itself is actually a player in the game.
Oh, yeah. The construct is a character, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that we refer to it as like, and also we are giving words like construct. So I thought, you know, again, that fed into my initial belief of thinking, oh, are we all just like computer program? I don't know. I guess I was in a sci-fi era. I don't know. Because it doesn't really lead
it makes sense. It really does. It could make sense, you know, like as a computer simulation.
I don't think there is a correct answer. This isn't the kind of game that you'd want to dig into the lore and have, oh, this is the canon correct thing. It's a game, like I said, I think like before when we talked about this, it's a mirror. Like you get out of it what you put into it, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's not supposed to do anything.
Like the princess.
Yes. It's not supposed to do anything.
That's the other thing is that as we're going to talk about these, each of these kind of explore a different aspect of what is actually going on and the ultimate mystery, that after like 10 runs, you get an ending for the game. So this is the point where we're going to start dropping in more spoilers. So if you are interested in this game, go play it. Again, why are you listening to us? The princess has a fantastic voice that not even Lindbergh, who isn't even here, could match. Sorry. So we'll kind of be talking about it. Like we were saying, there is a construct that you are in some, they call it a construct, that you can't see it or anything like that. And there's some really nice moments later that kind of subvert that expectation. But yeah, The Prisoner was just one that I really liked. It really kind of hits that like, oh, nothing is really horrifying. The concept of nothing and entropy, decay.
I'll briefly talk about the adversary just because I don't have that much to say about it. I just think it's funny. The thing you need to know about the princess is, like, at the very beginning of the game, it tells you this is a love story. And there's always that sort of undercurrent of, like, this is like, if you're familiar with, like, a Doki Doki Literature Club, which is, like, a, you know, horror game disguised as a dating sim, I would say that this is a dating sim disguised as a horror game a little bit. Like, just, like, because it's just sort of like a little, it's always a dance with you and the princess.
God, you just, like, unearthed PTSD waves after PTSD waves of Doki Doki stuff. I forgot that existed.
In chapter 1, if you you don't slay the princess right away, you talk to her a little bit, you get to know her, and then you like sort of attack her, and she has time to react. You guys get in a little tussle and you kill each other. In chapter 2, you get the adversary, and she just wants to fight. That's all she wants to do, and it's fantastic. I love her so much. She's oh, it's like not even subtle. Like you go like down into the basement and you take the knife, and she's like, "I see you got your little knife," and he's like, "You remember me?" And she's like, "Of course, best 3 minutes of my life." And I'm like, man, I always just like just fighting each other, and like she's just just amped, just stabbing at each other for eternity, pretty much. And
she also is the demon-esque looking, like, isn't she? Like, am I not wrong? Doesn't she look like a hot mommy? Like,
she's muscle mommy.
She's muscle mommy. You kill each other over and over again. You don't go back to the cabin in the woods. It's just like you kill each other, you kill each other, you kill each other. You get all these voices in your head. They're like yes, the voice of the stubborn or something. And just like absolutely having a blast. And at the very end, you just get a montage of you guys stabbing each other, and the narrator's like, I have to find exactly what he says, because that's just like, you and the princess exchange dozens of devastating blows. Sometimes you manage to strike first, sometimes she tears through you before you have a chance to act, but more often than not, each of you fells the other in the same moment. And my thought was just like, this is just me and my hot mommy girlfriend coming at the same time for all of eternity.
And that actually kind of speaks to one of the themes of the game, which is that you and her kind of are eternally locked in something. And even when it's violent, there's still the two of you and it's reciprocal. In terms of what's going on.
We'll get into the god stuff later, I guess. I don't know if you want to bring that up now or address it.
Right now, we can just say that, like, oh, it is interesting that a lot of these stories seem to revolve around reciprocality and that it is a love story. Because the next one I wanted to talk about was the Witch and Thorn one, which is basically, there's one where if you kill her, she turns into a witch after, like, the next time around, and she's just real mean to you in, like, a spiteful way.
Because you stabbed her in the back.
Yeah, you stab her in the back, and she's just like,
I love her.
and then you have the choice of either this time giving her the knife so that she'll trust you, or not having the knife, I think. Either way, she'll then stab you and be like, oh, I thought that was going to be funner than it was.
But if you tell her she's pretty before you stab her, you get the voice of the smitten in the next one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, she kills you, but she's like, I didn't mean to kill you exactly. And then the next time you come through, it's the thorn and or thorns, I think is what it's called. I can't remember. And it's because the thing is, you can also end up killing her because the narrator told you to kill her, and so that's something where you realize, like, oh, the narrator doesn't really have your best interests at heart.
He can
She's kind
only
of
control you that much in chapter 1, I think. I don't think he has that kind of power over you.
I think you're correct, because his power diminishes over time. But in that ending, in the Thorn one, she's like, what do we do? I've hurt you, you've hurt me, but we're still kind of together, and like, can we go on from this? And that's, again, speaking to the themes of, like, these two people in an eternal cycle and how you treat each other, which I thought was just, it was a cool one. It was one of the ones I liked. It's one of the ones that, like, isn't super showy, but kind of gets across the story and really makes you like the princess, which is very easy for me and Val, because we are the voice of the smitten in real life. We like the princess way too much.
If you get the thorn, you can give her a little kiss. You can give her a little kiss.
But the narrator won't shut the fuck up the whole time. Like, you're kissing her and the narrator and everyone is talking, and I'm like, shut up, you idiots.
It's so funny. It's so funny because, like, the hero and the smitten are like, he's like, fine, you kiss her. And they're like, no, I want to hear about this. Describe the kiss. And he's like, fine, it's a really passionate kiss and you really like each other. What, blah, 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 blah. Are you happy? And we're like, yeah.
It's very funny, but I wanted to enjoy the epic kiss with my murdery, multi-dimensional princess wifey. So now we're going to move on to the pristine cut ending ones, which all kind of play off of your expectations of how, now that you guys kind of know how the loop of the game goes. Why don't we do the Princess and the Dragon first, though, because that one's really cool.
So this one is an offshoot of the Spectre. If you just don't do anything, just go straight down, kill the princess in chapter 1, you get the Spectre in chapter 2. And she's angry with you, and she says, hey, the only way out of here is for you to let me possess you. So you let her, if you choose to. She will go into your body, and the first thing, like, one of the first things she says is, like, about the narrator, like, this guy isn't supposed to be here. You're not even really a person or, like, a whole thought. You're like the memory of something. And you're like, oh, it's weird that she's seeing all the little voices in our head now. But eventually both of us die because we can't live like that. But when we wake up again, you are in the basement, on the wall where the princess usually is. And you look down at your hands and you see princess hands with your little crow claws at the same time. You're like, what's going on? And the princess's voice is in your head. She's back to normal. She's back to her standard, like, chapter 1 princess self. And she's like, hey, I'm not really mad anymore. Are you mad? Like, you can ask her some questions, and you're just like, this isn't how it usually goes. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, I didn't get a title card this time. And she's like, title card? What are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, it's usually like, like chapter 1, the princess and the hero. And she's like, well, let's call this one the Princess and the Dragon. And we're like, the dragon? I thought it was like a bird or something. And then you hear the creak of the cabin door opening, and you're like, oh my god, that's us. And you hear these, like, terrifying, like, thump, 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 and the, like, swing sound of you taking the blade. And you're like, guess we took the blade. Wonder what's going on in there. And, like, we slowly sort of, like, climb down the stairs.
You're like Howl from Howl's Moving Castle.
It's so cool.
Yeah, you have like a ton of feathers and stuff. And by the way, we didn't mention it this time around, but this whole time there's this clever little, like, again, all the attention to detail because it's a confined environment of what you're doing with your creativity. But the little mouse was always a clawed looking bird dragony hand. Even when you held the knife, you hold the knife as your little clicker, and the mouse is his hand like that. And so you get the full vision of yourself, and you're just like this puff of feathers, and you're terrifying.
And it's great because the game doesn't really try to hide from you that you're a bird person ever. Like, you see your hands early on in like chapter 1, and you might be like, oh, that's a weird mystery, but it's not really. You very quickly realize, because she calls you little bird sometimes. In other ones, it's often referenced. But like, you think, I'm probably just like a regular crow man or something. But you like come downstairs like terrifying, like Christian angel wings, like crow abomination. And you just sort of like pause, like holding the knife, looking, and we don't hear the thoughts in her head. Obviously, we're in the princess's body. And he's not saying anything. And we're sitting there, and like, we're like, hey, why is he just standing there? Is it always like that when like my voices are talking in the head? And she's like, oh, is that what it's about? Yeah, it's really weird. Like, they're always just sort of staring at me. And you realize contextually throughout the game when you're like sitting there scrolling through all the options that you've just been standing there staring at the person.
It's so funny because it plays on your expectations. You think, okay, this is like a genre convention. You're not actually standing and not doing anything. And then you realize, oh no, this whole time was not paused.
If I was like sitting there for like 10 minutes, like I was just like staring, and the princess was like, this guy's fucking
What's
weird.
he doing?
This guy's weird.
Yeah, it's great. And you kind of hear the voices talking to each other in him, and they have trouble making a decision because they're like, but the decider isn't here. And you realize, oh, that's what you were this whole time. You were like their volition.
And it's so great because you hear them talking, you recognize the voice of the narrator. I think the Broken is there too, but there's a new guy, and it's so clear if you've played this game at all that it's the voice of the opportunist, because he's just such a little shit. He's just like, oh well, I was never gonna do it. Here's my vote, and oh wait, I changed my mind. Actually, let's save her. Like, he just has such a way of speaking, and it's so great. It's so delightful, like recognizing all the little voices and stuff, and eventually, by one means or another, if you like get stabbed or like end up punching the bird, that you get back in your body, and you can choose to either escape with the princess or kill her. But I always escape with the princess. I like her.
Yeah. I actually don't even understand the playthroughs where we kill her. I'm always like, well, I'm going to do this to get to the ending I need to see, but this is not, I do not agree. I do not consent to it.
It's such a blast if you've played the game at all, and like just delightful to like see this abomination of like what you actually look like. It's so fun. It's
taking the premise and really putting it on its head, and you don't get it unless you've played the game, and then you just like really appreciate it. The other one that's like that a lot, I think, is I think it's called The Stranger. I can't remember. It's when you decide not to go to the cabin. You insist, I'm not going to the cabin. And so you walk away and you find a cabin. You keep walking, and then you start finding many cabins. And like the whole, like they're kind of like glitching into each other almost. And eventually, if you keep deciding to go away, the voice of the many will be, or the shifting mounds will be like, okay, but you got to keep, like, come on, what are we doing? You came here to do a job. What are you doing? And then eventually you go to the original cabin. But when you go in and you talk to her, every time there's a line of dialogue, the screen cracks and another her in another dimension is talking at the same time as her. And it's like the most what the fuckery version of it. And there's also a part, I think, where the world actually, you get a flashback of going to the cabin, but the style of the art is suddenly very sketchy, and it is like even more minimalist than before.
This is the one that was different before the pristine cut, right? Because I never played the other one.
I don't know. I never heard of it.
It's like Bugs or something.
It was different before. Instead, what happened is she, as the shifting mound, came for you, and it was just more nightmarish, like less focused on the themes of what we've so far discussed, and more so just supposed to be like the forgotten edge, like the dusty remains of like the concept of her, or whatever. And funnily enough, I didn't actually even get that far to where I got the sketchy version of that when I walked away. All I got is where I died, and the shifting mound came to me and was like, you didn't bring me a version of myself in this run. You can't keep doing. So now I'm curious also, if you just continuously keep walking away each run.
If you don't bring her any vessels, you get the very ending of the game is just her like going through the 5 stages of grief, being angry at you for not bringing her anyone. Like
interesting.
Like not now, but later I want to talk about like the actual like the ending when you get the stranger first, because I have some things to say about that. But that'll be later.
Those are two that really play with your expectations. There's one called The Wilds that I played, or I watched a playthrough of this morning, where it happens after The Witch, I think, where your body becomes the forest itself, and like there's a kind of interplay where the narrator is like, this is not right, you should not be doing this, you're breaking the rules of how this plays, and you start talking actually with the shifting mound. I think one thing I need to say is that like a lot of these blur together after a while. We're not talking about these like comprehensively or anything like that. These are just like our impressions from playing, and part of that is they kind of melt together. But I liked that one because it's very much like, well, you're trying to break the cycle, and what happens when you try to break the cycle of the gameplay itself. Like, how does the game account for that? And in this case, it's the narrator and the shifting mound getting into an argument, and you and her. What happens is that you and the princess in this one are one, and that's kind of the way that it's breaking down.
And that's explicitly not what the narrator wants.
The narrator does not want that to happen.
There's also this one, I don't remember exactly how you get there, and you know what? Who cares? Go play the game. Have fun with it. But but the point is what happens is you end up getting the voice of the smitten, which, so the culmination of all of your choices results in a stage 2 kind of scenario where you have the voice of the man that is besotted by the princess, aka William and Val, and it's their cameos. And so they you end up choosing. I don't remember exactly what happens, but I remember that you end up dying in order to enter your stage 3 version of things, and the smitten actually stays behind with her.
This is you got the damsel, and if you get up to the top of the stairs, chapter 2 at the damsel, and the smitten will be thinking about killing the princess or something, or asking the princess if she wants to stay in the cabin with us forever. And she's like, oh, why would we want that? I kind of want to go outside. And then the smitten is like, no, we can build a beautiful home for us right here. And then the smitten kind of takes control. He's like, I know what I need to do. I need to show her my heart. And he like rips his like chest open and shows her.
He rips your chest open, to get the heart.
She's like, oh my God, why would you do that? You're hurting yourself. And he's like, this is the only way we can show her our love, that our heart beats for her.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Sound like him. It's so funny.
And she's like, oh, you're trying to show me something, aren't you? And then
that's right. Yes, I remember that line.
And then in chapter 3, the smitten is not with us anymore. And we wake up not on a path to the woods, but in a castle.
And we end up going up the stairs instead of down the stairs for once. So we go up, and the castle seems really cozy.
There's no blade in sight.
And you sit at the end of a really long table with lots of torches. And it's you go through these cycles with the princess where it's like you eat a really beautiful meal with her, and it was like literally the best meal you have ever had. It was absolutely delectable. And then she's like, oh, well, we finished it. Well, but we can do it again. And so it like refreshes itself, and it happens over and over and over again until slowly but surely that delicious meal. Yeah.
That's the princess I'm dressed up as, by the way, because the dagger's around her around her neck for that one. And the narrator's always like, we could just go over and just sort of like push down a little bit. And
that's a fair point. It's showing that he's given her the one thing that could go against her. So it's like the ultimate sacrifice, right? It's the only weapon that he could use to stop her from ending the world. But so it's all for her. But anyway, so they eat so many times that the meal then becomes almost like disgusting. Like at first it's just bland, and then it becomes like a torturous process of eating. And they're like, okay, well, let's you know what? Let's actually play some games. And during this
A
next
torch
part,
goes
the
out
princess-
as soon as you say, I don't want to eat anymore. A torch goes out.
and the princess becomes like discouraged, and she's like, oh,
No, I'm
okay,
happy.
well, how can I fix this? And she's like, let's play some games. And I know that you end up playing games, and at first it's like, it's pretty fun, it's pretty entertaining, and then slowly over and over again, because there's nothing else better to do, keep doing the same thing, and it loses interest, and you're like, I don't want to play this anymore, and another torch goes out. And I don't remember what other interactions you can have in this moment, but I just know it slowly but surely as the torches go out, don't you see more and more of the smitten shadow standing over her? Almost not
He's
like,
sort of like behind her protectively.
Yeah.
And
yeah, but
the-
that protection, it seems more like a
It's-
controlling
Oh,
nature.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
the last time I played it, I noticed another thing. If you look really closely at the sort of banners on the side of the wall, they're really sketchy, but there's just like straight up like a little fan art of like a little crow guy kissing a princess.
Uh-huh.
It's like
It was really cute.
it's really cute. I was like, oh, my little smitten bub, I'm so sorry. You're doing this. This is not good.
This is one of the more beautiful ones I found in terms of the ending.
Well, that's because I think it mirrors the sad inevitability of the breakdown of a relationship built on the immortality of, I mean, let's be honest. If we all could live forever, would I stay with my husband after 120 years? Would I still find the same things interesting staying with
Yes.
him? Would I still want
I'm
to, would everything still excite me the same way,
Yes.
or would it become dull and repetitive? And
Do you know how many hours of Total Warhammer 2 I've played?
shut up. The point is,
I mean, I am going to talk about that a little bit when we get to more of the themes of the work as a whole. But you're correct. It also touches on that entropy that some of the other ones did.
yeah, and there's also like, because obviously the Smitten's kind of a good guy in the regards of trying to help the princess, but at the same time, in that, because he is the only one with the power to do anything in this, like he also is sort of like, it's almost like an abusive figure.
It's a matter of clinging to something so tight that like you just there's no room
You hurt it.
for you hurt it. Yeah.
You won't allow it to grow itself. And that reminded me of the movie Pieces of April just now. Sorry, I hate that movie. It's the same concept.
I don't know it, but
I think it's Pieces of, no, it's not Pieces
I've
of April.
never heard of
It's-
it.
What is it called? The one with the indie black-haired dude that everybody had like a crush
There's
on.
so many of those. You just
Well, no, it's
described-
500 Days of Summer.
wow, how are you so wrong?
Pieces of April.
Pieces of April is another movie that's actually really good, and it's about Thanksgiving and
I
family and
told you
cancer.
this.
But no, it's 500 Days of Summer.
You're right. It is like 500 Days of Summer a little bit. Like you
I mean,
have an
yes,
idea.
yes.
but
No,
it's just,
It's summer, April, seasons, months of the year. It's the same thing.
So each time it's less and less enjoyable. And she's like, no, but we're happy here, even as the lights keep going out. And you kind of have to make the decision of like, are we going to stay here as everything becomes nothing, or are we going to go try to find something
and
new?
the narrator himself starts getting just defeated. Like this is the one where the narrator's like, this is miserable. Like,
Mhm.
and eventually the princess is just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And like, you talk to her, you can be like, hey, like, should we get out of here? And she's like, I mean, I guess, are you still going to kill me? Like she's just crying. Like the narrator is like, I don't care. Run away with her if you want. I just don't want to be here anymore. And like we'll get into it more later maybe, but like at the end when you're like confronting the narrator in a scene,
Mhm.
if you get this ending, you can ask him specifically, be like, hey, at one point you just fully didn't care about, like, you just let me and the princess go off. And he's like, that doesn't sound like me. I wouldn't do that.
Or I must have had a very good reason or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like a 1 in a million chance.
And one thing we haven't mentioned is that anytime that the princess leaves the cabin, she like dies, like, or not dies, but like she's taken by
She's
the
taken
mound.
to the shifting mound. Yeah.
So leaving the cabin essentially means dying or stopping to exist. But you guys both decide that like we can't we can't do this anymore.
You can have a nice little dance first, and then it gets cold
Yeah.
and she gets taken away.
But it's so pretty because you guys are like dancing even as you're about to die. It hits that note of like melancholic,
I love it.
bittersweet love. Yeah, it's one of the better ones. It's really good. I actually think it's probably the best. I did like The Wild. That was pretty. No, The Stranger is one of the ones I like.
There's so many good ones, and they're good for different
Yeah.
reasons. They make you think about different things.
Well, they all kind of like orbit the same kind of themes that we've been talking about relationships. So like in this one, in terms of like one of the things we haven't mentioned, but it's kind of important, is that basically the princess kind of becomes whatever you expect her to become. And so like in the damsel one where she's very pliant, you expect her to be pliant. And so you ask her what she wants and she keeps not being able to say because she just doesn't know. And the artistic representation of her becomes less and less detailed and more anime until eventually she just pops out of existence.
It's like the what do you want to do? Or what do you want to get for dinner? I don't know. What do you want to get for dinner? And you just sort of devolve into a nothing of a person with no opinions as the conversation. Well, I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know.
That's exactly kind of what it is. And it's kind of like, a topic on like saving the princess, if infantilization.
Even like the princess can change on a whim, like even within the same chapter. If you, in the first chapter, if you think, gee, I wonder if she has a knife hidden somewhere, she'll have a knife hidden somewhere. Like, she's just she changes very quickly, whereas our character only changes very subtly between chapters with the new voices and perspectives that we get. And another thing that I think we should mention is that in chapter 2, there's always a mirror. Like, yeah, we mentioned it before, on the wall. And the narrator's like, there's no mirror there. It's not there. And you reach out to touch it and it disappears. And I have a lot of thoughts about the mirror. I think it's cool. And in chapter 3, if there is a chapter 3, sorry, real fast, it won't be on the wall off to the side anymore. It will be covering the door. So the mirror becomes more and more prevalent the more you as a character have changed a little bit. And similarly, the narrator loses kind of control over you as the chapters progress.
Let's go ahead and describe the ending, because then we can discuss some of the other thematic things that won't totally make sense unless you understand the ending. Which is basically, so there's a bunch of smaller offshoot endings, but usually what happens is you get to like, I don't know how many playthroughs, I think it's like 5 or 10,
It's 5.
I would assume. It's 5. And at that point, this shifting mound has gotten enough experiences to reform herself into some kind of a being. And the narrator goes, well, shit, this wasn't supposed to happen. And he basically explains kind of what happened, which is that his universe is nearing its death, or his creator's. Well, I'll get to that. His universe was nearing its death, and so he bound up change and death into a god.
Change in stasis, I would say.
Change and stasis, and he basically, or it was already a god, but either way, he split them into two, which is you, who he calls the long silence, and her.
The long quiet.
The long quiet, and her, which is the shifting mound. And she is change and death and things moving and constant inertia, and you are the long quiet. You are an existence without death, which, as the game has shown multiple times, not great. Not great for nothing to ever happen ever.
Despite the fact that the narrator is kind of almost shooting for that most of the time, and it seems like the narrator is unable or unwilling to move on from some type of point. And I remember bringing up before the idea that I thought,
Your headcanon.
Yeah, my headcanon. I remember thinking before, once you start giving more of these details and you learn that, I thought, oh, is the narrator somebody that has done this because he doesn't want to move on from the death of a loved one outside of this space? And so he instead is using the princess as the incarnation of her, or the representation of her, which is why whenever you get scenes that are actually quite romantic or touching or lovely, like we talked about before, the dancing outside scene, or there's another scene where you can watch the stars with her, but whenever you get to those points where you have this peaceful, loving moment, the narrator ends up becoming incredibly depressed and like withdrawn, and he's just like, yeah, do whatever whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And that kind of feeds into my idea that he wouldn't want that this bird creature, the stasis, is him wanting things not to change. doesn't want to go outside the memories that he has of this person, which again, I'm reaching a little bit, quite a bit here, but it really feels that sort of way, like he is the original person. Like if this were in a computer simulation, he would be the self-insert AI that was supposed to control the program, so that way he could get what he wanted out of it, which was a world where he never had to leave her. Even if that meant just living over and over and over again, or killing her in a weird way, which is strange. Maybe it's because he's trying to kill death. He's trying to kill the change of what is going to happen. It's an interesting like interplay. It's because if that were to be the like the true canon or something like that, she's both representing the thing he doesn't want to change at the same time while she is the change, which does make sense because if she had passed away or died, she's the change he doesn't want to accept. But regardless, all of this comes together a little bit and it kind of gives you that vibe. It doesn't ever confirm any of that stuff, but that's just what I was thinking when I got to this point.
And I do think this game is specifically set up so that you can have that, and that is correct. Like, you know, it's not a game that has a lore like behind it. It is like, it's whatever you put into it. It's about you. Like it's you know, it's a reflection of you. And similarly, like in my head, like I feel like there's a lot of like discussion about sort of like inherited trauma that you could get here because I don't know.
Well, we should describe more of the mechanics first.
Okay, sorry, but
okay, yes.
I will just say real fast: the narrator you discover is an echo, is how he's described as. So he is one thought or one will that is sort of driving us down like this path, which is why he gets weaker with each chapter as an echo kind of, you know, fizzles out.
And what happens is basically he describes that the only really way to like bind a god, so to speak, is again, he split you into two and then he created this construct inside you. And the only way that the construct survives is because you don't know that it's there. Once you start knowing it's there, it gets undone because you are all powerful, essentially. Now you have led to a critical mass where that can't happen anymore. He's going to go away as the echo, and you're going to have to make a decision of what to do with the princess and whatnot. Do you allow her to be birthed back into the world as death? Do you decide to snuff her out and open up a new life? And it's kind of cool because the idea of the construct that you're in being yourself is that in a couple of the endings, you start seeing your wings lift apart and it opens to like a picture, not the artistry that we've done, like a photograph, not like the art style of the rest of the game, which implies that like that was the construct the whole time, was you were in yourself, which I thought was like a very cool little note. And basically you get different endings here. I don't totally remember. I don't remember which one I got the first time, and the lore is a little complicated. But you know, you get to make decisions like, do you value life without death? Do you want? My favorite, okay, is the one where you and the princess just get to go out and be people on your own, and like you guys get to be a couple, and
it's really cute.
You can go ahead and say your thing now.
Oh, well, if we're talking about endings, I could talk about the stranger ending now, if that would be.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
If you get the stranger, deliver the stranger to the shifting mound as your very first run or like loop, essentially, there's an ending you can get if you talk to the shifting mound and decide to just go back to the cabin to see the princess. Most of the time, if you choose this ending, you'll just get a regular princess down there and talk to her and you can leave. But if the first princess you choose is the stranger, you will get the stranger who has like 3 faces and is sort of like an amalgamation of all the princesses you know and don't know. And it's very interesting because as you're walking back to the cabin, it's, you know, the narrator's gone now. Usually it's just you and the voice of the hero. But in this one, you also have the voice of the contrarian with you, which is the one that you had when you got the stranger, because you went away and were like, I'm not going to go there. But he's actually kind of sweet in this one. He's like, hey guys, remember this? And he's like, hey, Mr. Voice of the Hero, do you want to narrate? So he like describes the room and it's really cute. And in mine,
for old time's sake,
and in mine, the contrarian, I had him throw the knife out the window, and the window is still broken in this one. And he's like, oh, remember that? That's really sweet. So we go downstairs and we talk to, you know, the stranger, who's like sort of, to me, the stranger is kind of like the human version of the shifting mound, because she is all princesses and is sort of like this amalgamation, but she's grounded in the way that, you know, the first, like, the princess is, like, sort of at a core, and you just sort of talk to each other. And it's just like, it's really like sweet, and you're just like, oh, I'm not gonna kill you. Want to just get out of here, and you choose to open the door together, and they like the credits roll before you even open it. Like it's just like it's so sweet.
There's two really cute things about it. One is that when you leave the basement, the voices are like, "We'll stay here. It's just you two now." And like that was so
I
like
know.
like they had an arc. Like I didn't know the voices were gonna have a character arc. Like that's so cute.
You're on the contrarian, just chilling in the cabin.
Yeah, and at one point she has the dialogue. She goes, "We can feel the threads of all the stories we've told together, all pulling us back down the stairs and into those chains where we know the outcome of everything that could ever come to pass. It's comfortable there, but it's confining. We want more. We want whatever might be on the other side of this door. Something new that we'll experience together with someone who exists outside of us, with someone who can see us in a way we can never see ourselves." Which is like very interesting in terms of the idea that these are two halves of one whole, and what does that mean exactly? And also in the way that like in life we do sometimes see ourselves better through other people, in terms of like we don't have perfect perspective, and I thought that was just like a really nice little kernel of philosophy.
We define ourselves through what we project upon those around us and how they perceive us and project back to us what we're supposed to, whatever our identity is, and we can adjust that as per what our like an experiment, like what kind of reactions do you get based off those reactions, how can you adjust yourself. But no, this feels like, again, this just like goes more into my headcanon of the idea that it's like two people that like and you don't even have to have it like be like they're both alive or something, or that she's dead and that he can't move on or something like that, but it's like you can't be more than misery if you keep yourself within that misery forever. Yeah, you won't ever lose. Like, it just really harkens back, for me in particular, into my, like, trauma of, like, wanting to stay in a certain point in my life. Like, wanting to stay in that one version of myself during this one bubble of time that seemed particularly happy. But if I am always that one person, I never change, and there's never any change. There's only going to be decay over time, regardless of how much you don't want to have an end to it. It's always going to end. But what won't ever end is a continuation of things. And that's just like a thing that we also talked about before, is the idea that you just don't like, you don't want to die, but by you dying, things change and things end.
I disagree. I have never understood this philosophy of dying. It's going to be boring if you live forever. Fuck that. We're going to get future cars. We're going to get computer games. I will be fine living forever.
The point is, I think, I hope it's not just me. I am so averse to change. I'm just like, I hate it so much. I feel like it's just a core human feel.
It's a
like
traumatic thing from our childhoods, probably, like, that disallow us to
all of us
handle.
I feel like get it at the very least. I know a lot of people do. It's just like the thought of, I would rather be comfortable and like sad than like the thought of like losing this grip on like, you know, like whatever rock I'm clinging to. Like, yeah, like I'm like, it's scary. And it plays at that.
I used to feel, I think I still feel that way in a lot of ways, but weirdly enough, because it started in my life so bad, and then it progressively got better and just exponentially got better, and I've been lucky enough to have that trend rather than a downturn, even though there's been downturns. It's not like everything has been peachy keen my whole life, but because the overall set has been a trend upwards, I feel like there's been too many like horror movies, and there's been too many representations like this that have shown me that stagnation is the only true death. And so it kind of helps me get to like a Zen mind state where it's like what else can possibly happen? You have to make peace with it.
Okay,
it is the way of the world.
No. New shit will happen. This is such like existentialist. Like, guess what?
Will be the android in the future. The what's it? Oh shoot!
180-year-olds. Comment below. Are you bored with life, or would you just like to be healthy again? Like, that's the thing. The thing that sucks about getting old is not that you're bored with everything. It's So in a lot of ways, the long quiet should be the thing we are afraid of. The lack of existing. The thing that's actually bad. Everyone's like, oh, eternal life would be terrible. Well, you know what? When somebody gets there, they can report back. And my bet is they're going to say it was pretty fucking awesome. None of us have gotten even close. So I do think there can be interesting themes of decay versus, longevity versus freshness and rebirth, like, power structures, for example. I think that's always very interesting. But in terms of like, oh no, it would be terrible if nothing changed and we live forever. Again, I've logged a lot of hours on Total Warhammer, and I will log many more.
No, you're
But
right.
but the game,
in the game, like neither of them are fundamentally like the narrator says she's changed, or like most of it. Both of you have the capacity to rest and be the same, and also like evolve a little bit, and that's why like it's a balance thing.
No.
What Val is saying is that we all need to become immortal, but we all equally need to become immortal. So that way we are at a perfect balance as we all grow older.
No, I think only the good people should become immortal. I think bad people should. Anyway.
Yeah, but who decides that, sir? Then we get into that
but anyway,
conundrum.
Within the philosophy of the game, it's very well done because it does show you like, oh, okay, being bored forever is absolutely awful. And through a couple of the endings that we talked about, you also get like, okay, yeah, we are together, but what does that mean? Is it always good for us to be together, or are we toxic to each other? Because there were a couple of playthroughs like that. You tell them about your inherited trauma idea, because I really liked that one.
The mirror in game was always really fascinating to me, just because like it only shows up in chapter 2 off to the side. In chapter 3, it's right in front of the door. And it very much feels like, us trying to figure out who we are, because in chapter 1, we're very much just like talking to this narrator who is saying like, straight path, go here, do this, do this, do this. And like in my little like a traumatized brain, I was like, this very much kind of feels like a reflection of like a parent who has an idea of what they want their child to do, kind of, and sets them on this path. And then they have like here you are, you're doing this, like, and the child doesn't have any idea like what, I don't know why I'm killing this princess, I don't know why I'm doing this, but okay, I'll fulfill this. And then in chapter 2, we see the mirror, we try to look at it, we can't see ourselves under the film, it disappears. Like, you just you don't really have a firm grasp of who you are until like the voice of your parent in your head like slowly gets quieter. And when you finally like reach the like shifting mound, like at the end, like you can see yourself, and you finally see your reflection for the first time. It's just sort of eyes and like a black void. But there's always like a little like a note at the end that says you've grown or you've withered or something. And it feels so poignant to me personally, just because so many times you don't really understand how you've grown or how like things have affected you until like, oh, this is manifested in some way and I can see myself and I don't understand how it got here. Just like the fundamental not understanding our own trauma that we've inherited a little bit. And that's what like hit me really hard about this game, I thought. And like just the narrator's voice being an echo that slowly gets quieter. And when you talk to the narrator at the very end of the game, like when, he's a crow and he's like falling apart, part of me is like, maybe this is just a version of him we made up in the head and we're making up answers because he's not here anymore, I don't think. Like is this just, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts.
No, I think you're totally right in that. And it's like, the parent is gone, but the echo of their thoughts continue in you in terms of, what they would say at any given time, and they can't ever quite leave. And so like, I do think that actually makes a lot of sense, because you really are carrying out his plan without consideration. And that's why he gets weaker each of the chapters that goes on, and the less long he's there, and you become more of your own person. And the world, which is you, stops looking at how he wants it to look and starts looking how you want it to look, even if that's not great all the time.
Yeah. And in chapter 3, when the narrator has even less, control over you, that's the only time that the woods really starts to change at all. Like the actual construct outside of the cabin starts to change. The cabin interior will change because the princess is changed. She can always change that. But you're the construct outside of it.
But even the princess herself is what you see her as. So there's even an extent to which, that's why in the second and third one, she's more unbound.
Which brings us back to the idea overall that just like, again, simplicity in the execution of this game creates bountiful gardens of creativity from which has sprung. And so you've got a lot of really cool concepts that are being played around with and being used anecdotally or not anecdotally, really. It's because I don't know if any of these are personal stories that they're like inserting within this, but you can definitely see it like archetypally. Archetypally? Is that a word? Archetypically?
I used it earlier, so hopefully.
So hopefully. But I mean, I think like you were saying earlier, there's a lot that you can draw and put into the game, and the game kind of accepts that and invites it even. And I think it's a really special game. I mean, there have been other like games like this, you know, choose your own adventure type thing that I'm fond of, but this one really has a depth to it, and it's clever, and the tone is so immaculate throughout.
The combination, of like horror and comedy just melds together like so well. It's so beautiful.
And all that quality for a mere pittance. It is not an expensive game.
Lots of replay value. I actually wish they had some kind of in-game function to just send you on which ending you want. Like, I want this ending. How do I get to that part? Because like I would try to get to one and end up in another, which is fine. That's how you should play it the first couple times. But after a while, I want to know specific routes.
It does give you that old-fashioned gaming vibe, though, where you have to follow the formula, so you best take notes.
On like a meta level, kind of, like there's a comment from the princess, I don't remember which one, but like she's just like, this is a bad place. It keeps making us hurt each other. And after you've gotten good endings, you go back and keep playing it again, and you make them continue to hurt each other.
Yeah.
So like it's just like, I'm doing this on purpose. Like the game is really just looking at you like the whole time.
Yeah. It's very fourth wall breaky at times, or at least fourth wall aware.
But not in a way that like extends into like sort of like a bathos situation where it's like, ha ha ha, I see you. It's like it's a meaningful.
Yes, no, it's not dumb and like, well, do you get how you've murdered hundreds and thousands of characters? Your character is like that too. And you're like, no, this is a gameplay convention. Stop being weird.
It acknowledges it just enough to be like poignant, and then it doesn't sort of doesn't take away from the sincerity of the game.
Okay. All right. Anybody last thoughts?
You should play it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you
or
should.
It'll make you
It
crazy.
is.
Maybe fun is the wrong word. It'll make you sick in the head like me.
Fun is the right word. You should go play it. If you've made it to this point, don't just put any princess. Put like little princess crowns or little crow people, little crow dudes next to princess
Oh,
crowns. If you can find
crows.
little
Yeah, that
crows.
would be good.
Mhm.
Yeah, or like a blackbird emoji if there is one.
Everyone appreciate my princess cosplay.
You know what? It's on point. If you play the game and you get to the princess that has the dagger around her throat, give us dagger emojis if you've had that as well. More interaction for our formula on YouTube.
Are there other games you guys would like us to look at? At some point, we will be doing Disco Elysium, because that is another game that one of the three of us has no chill about.
Yeah, I'm
Can you tell that one of us has a thing for people having very loud voices in their head and intrusive thoughts? And are there other ones you'd like us to look at? I prefer to do things that don't really require a lot of heavy mechanics involved, because there just are so many people doing really good video essays about, like, even if we did Disco Elysium, there's 1,000 really good video essays on it. And so like I like to do things that we can more add our own voice to. But you know, if there's nothing that's like too mechanically non-heavy, let us know. That will be all. Thank you all for joining us.
bye.